Hello and welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is February 26, 2022. This is episode 482. We're looking at White Ash. This is the entire season one, as they say. So I'm thinking that it was done in a way that would be like a TV show or Netflix project. Nothing wrong with that, I guess, as a lot of people are trying to pitch their comics as a script for a TV show or whatnot. This is a recommend. I didn't totally love it, but I liked it enough. I liked the story. Bottom line is I do like the story. So we'll get into this in a little bit. I have a little backstory on this. I actually bought, let me get it over here, Season 2, Issue 1 of White Ash, but they're calling it a number one up here. This comes out from Scout Comics. This particular one was $5.99. This trade was $19.99. It has 6 issues in it and a few extras in the back. What I was intrigued by the story in this, but I didn't know what was going on because there was no update or any kind of glossary or anything given. Didn't know who these characters were or whatever, and I was getting the story partially right and partially wrong from what I could glean from this particular issue. I did give it a recommend, but I was also recommended you go back and read the first season, or at least the first 6 comics. However, they portrayed it. And see, as you can see this here, it says Season 2 up here. Now, this one doesn't say Season 1 on it. It just gives you like a number 1 on the spine. And Scout Comics is the publisher, if I haven't mentioned that before. Let's take a quick look to see who worked on it. They used very nice paper in here. The smaller the town, the bigger the secret. So there you go, and we have this tree here, the White Ash. Now, I don't know if this is in reference to the White Ash, the ships that were made out of white ash that went from Middle-earth to the west to diminish in the west or not, or some other thing, just kind of a coincidence, or there's some more about elf lore that I don't know about. The writer on here is Charlie Stickney, the colorist, letterer, Connor Hughes, and the colorist Finn Cram. I'm not sure how you say that. That'd be like rhymes with lamb or just with cram. I'm not quite sure. And you can see the art on here at times is really pretty nice. You can see he's standing in front of a big tree there. Chapter 1, meaning first. So it's Season 1, Chapter 1, as you may say. Now, I think Charlie could have done well. I didn't see an editor on here. But perhaps if there was some kind of editor using this, it would have been a big help with the storyline. At times, the dialogue I found to be a little wonky. As for the art, at times it's very good. Other times I struggled a little bit with it. And not so much sequential art struggles. It was more the composition of what angle he chose to draw things at that made it a little bit confusing. And maybe I'm just a little dim and just didn't get it on my own on both counts. But we've got this town of White Ash. It seems to be some kind of coal mining town. And it turns out the big secret is dwarves mine the coal, and the elves are up on the hill in the clean part of town where there's no smog or dust or anything. And that portion's called the White Ash, the white part of White Ash, so to speak. So that didn't feel like it was kind of a racist thing or anything like that. They just do have different races. Now, there are humans also down in White Ash as well. So the dwarves here don't appear to be all that short, but in the book I think they're claiming them to be 5'4" or shorter or something like that. But they seem to be fairly tall. There's a lot of violence in this, which I don't mind. There's a lot of sexiness, which I obviously don't mind. Keeps the story interesting, keeps it moving. If I do have a comment about it, the young males are either bullies or they're hyper woke. It doesn't appear to be either. They're just whatever. You can see there's some blood there and this ominous sign here. A hand inside a bag, apparently. So we've got this. At first, I thought he was a vampire, but it turns out that he is some kind of what they call from the brood, blood spilled from a dragon that the blood became offspring, and this brood kind of lives together, and they're kind of like more like cannibals, but they have incredible strength. They're changeling a bit, and each generation of brood gets a little bit weaker. So this one they're dealing with, his name's Seth. He is a first generation, so he's got a lot of power. Now Kyle, that's not his name. Oh, I'm trying to think what his name is now. The main character. Hang on a second. Alec. Kyle is one of the other characters' brother. Alec, he is half dwarf and half human, so he's a little bit taller in retrospect, but he seems to be just as tall as the other women in here. And what we've got going on is there's a love triangle that emerges where there's a human woman that's in love with him, but he doesn't know, but they've been friends forever. And there you can see her right here. Her name's Caitlin. And there's also an elf that he meets that he starts falling for as well. Now, it doesn't matter if they're super woke or burlies, these young people, they get eaten. And there's a lot of nuances and traditions for these, which I thought was a very nice world building going on here. Just some of the dialogue seemed a little weird. I'm not going to go through every page in here, but I was kind of hoping to show you some of the odd drawings. Let's see if I can get to something. Here's one that looked just super weird to me. I don't know if I can get that glare out of there. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on with this. Looks like they're melded together somehow. But also what I did notice from the first issue of the second season is Caitlin actually loses some of her fingers in the first season. And I just read the whole first book of the second season, and I never noticed it. And there's really no reason to notice it because it wasn't super obvious. When I went back and looked, and I go, oh yeah, they are gone. Those two fingers are gone. So anyway, good story. I am giving it a recommend. Let's go way to the back, and you can kind of see. Here's at the end of one of the issues, they actually put kind of some advertisements and some kind of fun stuff about the garage that Caitlin works at, her family owns, and also one of those, do you like to draw? You can have a career in drawing. So that was kind of cute. They put that in there. You can see some more of the art in here and what's going on. At one point, Caitlin does get kidnapped by Seth, and Seth is probably the main character in here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what they call the process. We have Alec, spelled funny like Affleck, and they give you how the artist came up with some of the renderings. We get Lillian here. She's the elf woman, and she's kind of like a socialite almost, but she's a little bit on the wild side. And their ages, they're much older than a human age would be. Thane, he's kind of the heavy in here, so he kind of goes back and forth, which I like. You don't know whether to trust him or not trust him. He's got something going on. Here's Seth. He's part of the brood, kind of a vampire type thing, kind of changes his appearance a bit when necessary. And then we get the art process for this comic book, how they did the drawings, the inkings, the thumbnails, the pencils, the pencils. You can see it just goes to ink, and then I guess it must maybe digitally colored. That's what I'm guessing here. Oh, here's the coloring process. So I guess we got an inked here, inks and flats. Okay. The coloring process and the final colors. So they give you a pretty good extensive look at how this thing is drawn, which I really liked. And we got the creators here. There's a little blurb about each one. And feel free to go ahead and pause at any time if you'd like to take a quicker, closer look at this. See a little bit about them. And here's the colorist's own cover. I guess there were a few variant covers in here, which is nice. I'm trying that glare. It's just perfect right there. And I thought he did a pretty good job on that. I'll give you a little close-up. As well as another variant cover, perhaps from Connor Hughes. And this looks like it maybe was for a cover for a con special, maybe, because it's got all these different characters and whatnot in front, and the two main characters right here with actually Seth looks like he's been run over. But all in all, yeah, strange story. Give you your little blurb there. A nice world that was built. Some of the dialogue's a little wonky. Some of the art's a little wonky. But overall, the dialogue and the art were good. Okay. And we never really see this scene in there. Yeah, so there you go. White Ash, it is a recommend. Let me give it the Indie Comics Jones good excavating seal approval, given out only by Indie Comics Jones on this particular channel, except no substitutes. As always, if you haven't yet, I'd really like it if you subscribed. You could be the 270th subscriber. Isn't that a prize to be had if you subscribe right away? And like or dislike either way, and leave comments if you wish. We'll see you next time at the Temple of Tomes. This is Indie Comics Jones bidding you adieu.